Hello and welcome to another Demis Helen tutorial. We are taking a look at Molot, the compressor that is free. It's a Russian compressor, hence these names in Russian, but you can have an English version. And it is a very nice sounding compressor. It's got a few features over other compressors, which makes it a little bit more unique. And you're going to hear a demonstration on the kick drum in a second with it, and then we'll have a walk through and just see what makes it stand out a lot more and make it a really competitive compressor to be in your library of compression tools. So let's have a listen. It's going to kick in at this point here. This track is an uplifting tutorial that I'm doing, so if you are looking forward to this tutorial, leave me a comment down below, and if I get enough likes and comments, I might post it a little bit earlier than planned. So let's have a listen to what this compressor can do. Okay, so I'm just going to bypass this whilst it's on loop, and then you can hear the difference. So we're going to turn it off now. Listening to the kick drum. And that's back on. And that's back off. So you can hear on the kick drum, it makes it sound a little bit fuller. It's adds some roundness, a little bit of saturation into it. A bit thinner when it's not on. So let's have a look through and just see what this compressor actually does. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on the stereo out channel, because it's great for using on buses and on your main out channel, so you could use it to kind of glue your leads together. It's very good at that, adds a nice warm saturation to it. Or you can use it singularly on individual tracks. But anyway, so I'm going to zero everything here. So the attack, the release, the threshold, put the knee there. We're going to set the ratio to 3:1. Dry is on, that is there. Up sampling down to 1. That's there, 0. Right, okay. So let's take a look at these features. So on here we have, highlighted at the moment, we have the filter, attack, release and ratio down the left hand side. In the middle we have the threshold, makeup gain, the knee and the dry wet mix. And then on the right hand side we have the limiter, the mid scoop, the mode and up sampling. So we'll take a look at the left hand side first. The things that crop up as like unique features are the filter in this section, like the attack, release and ratio are all typical compressor settings. So when this is switched on, the compressor you can actually filter out up to 260, I think that is 260 hertz. Before the compressor would kick in. So if you've got a kick drum, you could filter it to 200 to make sure the kick drum is not affecting the compressor. The compressor is going to ignore anything below 200 hertz. So if you're using it on an overall mix, that would be a handy feature to stop the kick constantly just making the compressor kick in. Attack is there, so fast and slow. Release, fast and slow. And then the ratio, we've got 1:1, or we've got like what you'd class as unlimited or infinite on the ratio. So we'll go through some demonstrations in a second. Also next to the attack we have an alpha and sigma mode. I'll demonstrate that in a second. So when you switch, so alpha is making the attack react like a normal compressor would. So if you had it fast, the attack would be snapping quickly. Put it on sigma, it's a bit like a look ahead feature. So it kind of lets the compressor come in even later than what the attack is set at, and it has some uses, and you'll hear that, and it's very handy for kick drums. Right, so looking in this middle section here, we have the threshold and the makeup, knee and the dry wet mix. So the threshold is just as it is, so it's 0 or right up to maximum. Makeup, you can obviously reduce or increase the volume depending on the compression. And then the hard and soft knee here. So hard knee means the compressor is going to act very fast at the threshold when it's hit, or soft is going to give it a more natural sound, and it's going to be a bit slower to react at that threshold. So it's like an extension of the attack. And finally, the dry wet mix is 0. You have no dry mix coming through, or you can do the New York style compression and add 50% of the dry mix and 50% of the processed sound. And then finally, on the right hand side, we have a limiter, and this is, it doesn't act like a normal limiter where it brick walls everything constantly. It's just kind of catching those stray peaks and just briefly just limits them. So it's designed to be a little bit less hard hitting than a normal limiter. So it works in conjunction with the compression features. We have a mid scoop, so we can increase or decrease the mids. I'll show a demonstration of that. It's very simple. It's just like adding an EQ curve on the mids. And then we have the modes on how this compressor is going to work. So we've got stereo, which is what you'd use on a full mix. You have double mono, which is an interesting feature. It has its uses, but I've not tested them out, so maybe in a future video we'll look at that. You can set it to mid and side, so it's only compressing the mid and sides, and then independently the mid on its own or the side on its own. You can use it like, how can you describe that? Probably like a side chain, so it's using the right channel to compress the left channel, so it's like a side chain mode. And then you can just compress in mono. But we're going to keep it on stereo. And then finally we have upsampling, which is basically if you're recording in 44.1 kilohertz, you set it to 2 times, you are effectively upsampling it to 88.2 kilohertz, double 44.1, and then so on 4 times, 8 times. But you're going to see some serious, significant CPU increasing, especially if you're using it on multiple tracks. So usually I keep it on 2 to 4, which is always good, and it just makes a really nice crispy sound when it's coming out. And then we do have this arrow down here, which gives you some extra features. So if you don't want any saturation, you can have it off, but this is the characteristic of Molot. Very, very nice sound. You can just have it on, or you can have it on the ratio, so it's dependent on the ratio. You can bypass everything there. You can render 8 times. You can set the dither, the sidechain to internal or external, and then we have just the times here, and then upsampling fast, high quality, and then you can save these, like you got your input and your limiter. It can be pre or post. So I just tend to leave everything as it is. Just leave it as it is when it loads up, because these are the characteristic sounds of this. Okay, so let's listen to an example, and I'm going to overkill the threshold on here so the compression's obvious. So here we go. Okay, so we've got a very fast attack and a very fast release, so we're getting a really heavy compression. And I'm going to demonstrate how to bypass the kick drum here. So you'll hear this, you'll see this needle and hear the effects where the kick is not affecting as much. So it lets all the low end below 200 Hz pass through, so it's not triggering that compression as much. So you can see we're getting like a 2 to 3 decibel reduction. But if we put it back, we're going all the way up to like 5 to 7 nearly. So that's a good feature there, so you can have that as an overall mix feature. But we're going to keep it down so you can see the over-exaggerated effects. So the attack. If we have a slower attack, it's letting those transients come through. You can hear the click of the kick. It reduces the click, so standard stuff. And this is where alpha comes in, and sigma. So alpha is acting like that, and then if you turn it to sigma, it's increasing the attack, so the transient is heightened a little bit more. That's retaining the detail of the sound, that's adding more smack onto it and reducing everything else. Now that comes in handy for having it on just a kick drum. You set it to sigma and it just gives it a little bit more of a full body whilst adding a little bit of attack. and obviously you wouldn't have the attack on so high, you'd balance it out to where it sounds nice. Okay, so let's just set the release. The ratio we'll leave at 3:1. Okay, so the knee, you can hear it's a little bit slower. The kick drum then becomes really prominent. It gets pushed back a little bit on soft. So it's a very, I tend to have it somewhere here, like just so you get a bit of both worlds and it's not an obvious hitting attack of a compressor. Then if we look at the limiter, you can see it's capturing there, so it's just turned down so it's only just capturing the odd peak. So sonically it's not really affecting the sound too much like a normal limiter would. And that's just capturing the peaks that are going over which the compressor's essentially not catching, so it's just like an extra safety net for the sound. And then the mid scoop, so you can increase it, which sounds nasty, or you can cut it out, which is what you'd probably call the smile on EQ. It'd give you like that low cut, so it's good for shaping sound. So you could have it there. We're going to leave the modes for now, but stereo is how we're working. And then upsampling. It's just the output of the clean sample, so I'm just going to leave it on 4. Okay, so let's just reduce this threshold, make it a real world example. All I'm doing is just tweaking the sound to the ear. So you can hear how everything is coming out. Let's just bypass it and hear what we heard before. So noticeably you can hear that mid scoop come back. It's like a bit of a hissiness in the mid-range. And just balance it out, especially on the clap, if you listen to the clap alone. And what it's doing, you can hear the saturation coming in there and adding a lot of warmth to the track, which makes it sound really professional, in my opinion. And it just adds that flavour and character, which when you listen to a track over and over, you don't really hear anything that needs changing. But when you come back and you sit there and you think, that sounds flat. Little things like this on the bus channels makes all the difference. This is obviously on the overall output, but you can hear the difference. Like, it really brings out the bubbliness and the warmth of the synths, and brings out that warm sub bass as well. So if you listen to this, just brings out a little bit more in that synth. Goes a little bit flat, and then this gives it a bit of sparkle. So it's just raising all those lower volumes that are there and present, making all the reverb and the delays a little bit more obvious. But as a subtle compressor, it is really, really nice, especially on trance music. And the best thing about it, it's free, which makes everything so much more better. Okay, so that is Molot. That is a free compressor. You can download it now. I'll put the link in the description so you can get it. If you did enjoy this video, leave me a like. It really does help the channel out. And also drop me a comment and just let me know what you thought of the video. And also, if you are looking forward to hearing this track here that's been playing in the next video that I'm going to be doing, which is Uplifting Trance, if I get enough likes, I will post it earlier than what is planned. I've got it for about a week to a week and a half away, I think, at the moment. I'm aiming for Saturday, but if you want to see it sooner than next Saturday, let's get those likes coming in, and drop me comments and let me know why you want to see it before it gets released on the Saturday. So, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. See you later.